Good afternoon, everybody here in person in Dublin, and to all of those around the world online to the Net Zero stage for the afternoon. My name is Matthew Jackson, co-founder of Zero, and I'll be taking the first presentation. We have a really interesting afternoon of presentations and debate. The debate part will definitely be the best part, in my opinion, because it's always good to have a rather good discussion. The debates will be at 1440 and 1700. Those debates will answer the questions of how do we actually count carbon like we count cost, is the first one. But the real juicy one at 1700 will be about how we actually pay to decarbonise construction. That could go in any direction. And we have a really good panel of specialists who I'm going to throw through a few grenades at later and kind of see what their answers are. But first of all, I would just like to take a few minutes to talk about Zero and actually talk about creating carbon literacy. I think carbon literacy is a term that's kind of appeared in the last few years where it is a hugely broad subject and is a massive challenge that we as a species face globally across all industries. I think it's a bigger challenge than the digital challenge, the BIM challenge that we've been on our journey for good 20, 30 years. And we don't have 20, 30 years to solve this problem. We've got to solve it a little bit quicker than that. So my work is creating carbon literacy and looking at it from a point of how can I make everybody understand the importance of making small steps to solve a big problem. We're not just talking about the BIM people, we're talking about everybody. So one first saying I really do enjoy is that you don't know what you don't know. Gandhi probably said this at some point in his lifetime. And I think this is a great saying, I think, because I think a lot of people just don't understand the vastness of this subject. I am not a carbon expert. I am a frustrated architect who now works in construction technology. And one of the reasons that Zero exists is because I didn't know where to go to understand this topic in my work. And therefore, I don't stand on stage as an expert. I stand on stage as a student learning about this subject like everybody else. The scary thing is I now get invited to talk at conference to talk about carbon, and I do feel a little bit like an imposter sometimes because I don't know the details. But just having the conversation I think is really, really good. And one thing I do enjoy talking about is that we don't know what we don't measure. This is common not just in carbon, but this is common across construction very, very broadly, where we're not that fantastic as an industry of measuring stuff. We always overestimate, underestimate, or just fail to hold anything accountable once we've delivered something or ordered something. And that's something which is not just carbon-based, it's everything-based. So I was having a chat last week with a few people, and I just want to present a little thought experiment to start this presentation with, in bright pink, so it gets your attention. My little thought experiment is this, and you can agree or disagree with me here, is that there are around 8 billion people on Earth. There's a decimal point in there, but I need to do easy math. So we're just going to say it's a nice 8 billion round number. And according to the United Nations, we are producing around 37 billion tons of CO2 per annum going into the atmosphere. That figure is taken from 2021. If you're going to make broad assumptions, if you divide one number by the other, as every human on Earth, we are responsible for 4.6 tons of carbon per annum per person. Now, of course, this is not a great metric because we should probably be thinking about CO2 per capita based on countries that are producing more than others. But again, for easy math, I'm going to stick with this number. So we are all responsible for 4.6 tons of carbon. Now, construction produces 12%. New building, new construction, new roads, new rail produces 12% of all CO2 globally. That's about 4.5 billion tons-ish, give or take, depending on year. And according to the United Nations and our world in our data, there's approximately 275 million people that work in construction. About 8% of global workforce work in construction. Now, if we, again, thought experiment, 10% of those people probably have some decision-making process that can affect their daily work. it's probably less, but let's say it's 10%. So 27.5 million people have impact on a decision basis to affect 4.5 billion tons. So therefore, those who work in construction, those 27.5 million people, are technically responsible for 163 tons of carbon per year-ish, as a thought experiment. Which means that as a construction individual, and all of you, because you're here, probably have some decision-making process in your digital life, you have 35 times the impact on carbon reduction compared to the average person. It's probably a much bigger number, but we've used simple math because I am sometimes a very simple person, and I need easy math to make it easier to consume. You may disagree with that. I think it's a pretty good number. It's probably double that. It's probably near a 70x. But as individuals in our work, we have a huge ability to make positive impact through some very low-hanging fruit. So just to give you an idea what 163 tons is, as real numbers, you can fly backwards and forwards from London to New York 165 times. You could have over 400,000 cups of coffee. You could eat nearly 70,000 Big Macs. You'll probably die of cholesterol way before eating that many, but that's how many you can consume. But you could also order 27,000 wooden chairs that are made from pine for that amount. So it's a lot. 163 tons is a lot of carbon. It's a lot of stuff. And therefore, it's definitely worth considering how you can positively impact anything. One example of impact that I was actually given was if you're a site manager, and this was a genuine suggestion, as a site manager, you are responsible for ordering the toilet paper which goes into the site toilets, and you could order a recyclable version if you don't want to piss off the people that are working on site. So these are small things, but collectively add up to potentially very, very large numbers, and construction has some extraordinarily low-hanging fruit to make that work. So to give you just a little bit of idea why I'm standing here and who the hell Zero is a powerhouse for sustainable change. We are a not-for-profit global community of people that are just hungry to understand how do we make these things happen. We're 3,000 people strong. We're only 18 months old. We are based globally. We have people running kind of local regional offices in Sydney, in London, in the Baltics, in the Nordics, in Germany. We're getting people in the US. It's fantastic, and we have everybody from fresh graduates to some of the smartest people with doctorates around carbon counting ever that are very intimidating when you speak to them, but are geniuses. And everyone is accessible to everybody. And the purpose of this is that we really want to kind of ask the question, like, how do we solve this 4 to 5 billion tons? What are the steps that we have to take as a community to reduce this number down by 2050 to zero? Because that's what we're being asked to do. That is the aim from global government. How do we get construction to net zero by 2050? And having these long-term roadmaps is not that helpful, because we need to start doing stuff and thinking about stuff today. It's our opinion and thought that much like a receipt you have when you're building a building in the terms of cost, there should be a receipt for carbon that you have spent to build a building, to build a road, to build a railway. Now today, probably not possible because we don't have the data maybe available to us to get to this. But this is where we should be going. And this is a very transparent and accountable way to start measuring what we do. There are countries already that have this sort of thing by law already embedded. Denmark is one of those countries who brought in a law on the 1st of January this year. When you submit planning permission in Denmark, you have to submit your embodied carbon estimation to get planning. Already. It's being done. They've been counting carbon for 8 years. It's a small economy. They've started to do it. In Sweden and Finland, they're starting to do it as well. So there are really good areas of excellence globally that are already doing this on a national scale. But they are struggling with data availability because globally the supply chain is not ready for this at all whatsoever. So as Zero, we are a global community focused on reducing embodied carbon. Globally, we are around 3,000 members. We run 62 countries with 35 professionals. We are here purely as a point of interest and kind of point of reference to raise awareness about carbon, just talk about it in very plain language, like not technical at all. If anybody, I've heard a lot of talking about ISO 19650 today, and I can tell you if anybody's read that document, it's probably one of the most boring things I've ever read. It's not a fun thing to read, and it does create a barrier of entry for a very large amount of people who work in construction. And we need to get over that hurdle, and we cannot allow that to happen around carbon. We need to make it very accessible for as many people as possible. We're here to share knowledge. Construction is not very good at sharing best practice, especially between competing organizations, especially between tier ones, especially between consultancy firms. Our purpose is to break down those barriers and start sharing best practice on how things work and or don't work. Because this is, this might be a problem right now where companies could gain competitive advantage from doing good carbon. But, realistically and from a social responsibility point of view, we all need to be doing this quite quickly and well, as fast as possible. And finally, we want to empower people. I definitely understand, especially from our Future Leaders group, we have a huge amount of future leaders in our membership, where they are extremely intimidated by raising these questions within their place of work, especially with senior management, where they don't feel that they have the support of colleagues or just generally the knowledge to go in and ask the right questions to the right people. And it's one of our things where we get a lot of questions from people who say, how do I go and ask about this question to my manager? So instead of them feeling very alone, they have 3,000 people standing behind them to help them and support them in that process to start asking the right questions within their business. And that is a wonderful thing to do, and we have had some great results of people being able to ask those questions within companies and make real change in a way that they couldn't before. We are trying to kind of grow ourselves as fast as possible as a non-for-profit organization. And there's been some really good events and things we've been able to kind of tick up our membership. And being here, we hope that we can build membership to Zero even more. We're in Birmingham in October. I'm in Helsinki. We're in Munich. Just trying to share as much information as possible around the work that we're doing, and that it's available completely free of charge to everybody. One thing that I'm very passionate about is no to shelfware. There's enough white papers that come out in construction. I don't know how many people actually read white papers or how often white papers are read. I kind of feel it's just like having a certificate on your wall that you've downloaded this white paper. How much it actually gets inputted into your business is something else. So we're not going to create white papers. What we're creating is we are creating basically a knowledge base, a Wikipedia for carbon education and carbon literacy in construction. This has been written by the communities. Over 100 authors have already submitted pieces of work, maximum 500 words, very high level, very starting position. And it's publicly available right now. You can go and read it. And being hosted on a wonderful company called Mortar, who are a documentation organization. And what we've done, we've split it into pillars of subjects. So things like leadership, design, construction, people, innovation, and divided it into 10 different chapters. If you want to get involved, we're writing 4 new pillars right now with the community in bi-weekly 1-hour workshops. We are discussing things like circularity, digital, finance, and materials. This is our crazy Miro board. This is actually only about 20% of it, where everybody's kind of collaborating and bringing ideas and stuff together. And these people are all over the world when we do this. If you're interested in being part of the next phase, which is editorial workshops, we have 6 editorial workshops between now and February, where you can come in and give your opinions, your knowledge, your ideas around the existing work that's been done. And we're just here to facilitate those meetings. We trust your knowledge and your expertise. I'm not here to question it. I'm here to gather it and have it in one central place. So if you want to know anything about these subjects, you can come and join these meetings just to learn as well. Like I said, we have some of the greatest minds from universities as well also helping us out with this. And we're just happy for people to attend meetings, sit there silently and absorb knowledge. Also totally fine, no issue at all whatsoever. We also feel that in construction we need to learn in more fun ways. So has anybody here played Top Trumps or Pokemon cards in their lifetime? Surely a few people. So what we've done is we've taken that playbook, which is an online knowledge base, and we've actually created our own carbon Top Trumps for construction. This is design number 1. All the artwork has been done through AI. I've built it together. Phase 2, we're launching in Birmingham at UK Construction Week. We've got some poker tables, and we're actually going to get people to kind of bet and kind of play and learn about carbon construction in that way. These cards will be commercially available to use within your project teams by the end of the year. We're just setting up on-demand, low-carbon printing. We found a really good company that's going to help us out. And it's a really good way to have, you're starting a project, to have as a team. We're also getting sponsorship to put these in schools. If anybody's heard of the DEC program, Design, Engineering, Construct, which is an education program designed for 15 to 19-year-olds on a global stage, we've been asked to deliver 250 packs to 120 schools to help young people learn about carbon, because we've written it in a really kind of low-level, very good entry-level way. So these are available, and if you're a member, we'll notify you when you can start purchasing these within your company. Another typo there, that's a very long way in the future. We've also been working and really thinking about how we learn in conference. And one thing that we realized very quickly was that there isn't a global specialist conference at an entry level to learn about carbon. There's one in the US, which is pretty good, which is the Green Building conference in San Francisco, which is run by the US Green Building Council. But actually, it's pretty technical. I have attended, and it's pretty hard work. So we've been funded to release Q4 of next year something we're calling ZeroCon. It's going to be, if any of you have been to Autodesk University, it's basically that kind of conference, but only about carbon in construction. A whole day, hundreds of speakers, hundreds of classrooms coming together to learn on-site about how to reduce carbon in construction. Next year it will be in London. The idea is that we will, if successful, we already have a company to help us take this to the US, to the Middle East, and to Australia. So we will be releasing tickets for this at the beginning of the year, next year. In the meantime, we're also going to do a virtual conference, a 24-hour virtual conference on carbon literacy. That will be in February, where we have 8 hours being run by the US, 8 hours being run by Europe, and 8 hours being run by Asia, bringing case studies from all different parts of the world on best practice on reducing carbon in projects. An incredible amount of work to do. If you like podcasts, we also have a podcast. Come and listen. If you are enjoying my voice right now, you can come and listen to me blabber on. We have guests and we have debates. We're about 7 episodes in. I've got 3 episodes more recorded. Come and check out the podcast. And if you have ideas, please submit them. Or if you want to present case studies, please come and tell me and we'll invite you. And we just want to talk about best practice. Another wonderful part of what we're doing as well is we have the Zero Next part of our organization, our future leaders. And it's fantastic, right? Because our future leaders are young and basically stand up on stage and go, what the fuck are you doing about the future of my planet construction industry? And they're great. They're very hungry to learn. And they have a huge expectation coming into the industry of how this industry should be over the next 10, 20 years. And fantastic people all over the world, inspirational. And we're getting them on stage and getting them in front of CEOs to start asking some really serious questions. As a voluntary not-for-profit, we have to say thank you to those who give us some money so we can actually do work. I have a full-time job. This is not my full-time job. So all of us, we do this in our spare time. So any support or anybody out there who wants to help us on this journey, we have lots of opportunities for you to help us out. And finally, just come and help us, join us, share it, and enjoy what we're doing at Zero Construct. So any questions, you can come and ask me later. So thank you very much.